I want to talk about what makes a good page.
Right. So
So
look at the
you
handout.
have this in mind. Okay, I put a lot of arrows on this screen to bring your attention to the basic things that are very important. One, of course, it has to be well written. If it isn't well written, you're going to be editing it to improve the writing. First on the list, you see it says it fills a gap. So probably if you're editing something that's there already, you can assume that it's needed. Although I'll show you how you can tell how needed Wikipedia community really thinks it is. And then it has a good title, and that might be established already. It starts with a clear description, and it's understandable. So it's well written. And down towards the bottom of the list it says it's clear, it's not ambiguous, avoids misunderstanding, and also is engaging. You don't want it to be really boring, and follows standard writing conventions. So sprinkled throughout this list are a lot of things that have to do with what makes good writing in general. Next, I'll call your attention to the fact that the article needs to be a standalone. It has to be logical as a piece unto itself, but it also needs to be well connected to the rest of Wikipedia. So if it refers to a term that needs definition but isn't the subject of the article, that should be hyperlinked out to the article in Wikipedia, which you're going to look to see if there is one. Maybe that term is not linked now when you start your editing, but when you read the article, you realize it would be an enhancement to link that article to something else which is related to it within Wikipedia. So you're going to connect both in and out. You see it says branches out and branches in. They call them wiki links. So this is within Wikipedia, branches to hyperlinks to other articles, and also branches to other things outside of Wikipedia, external links.
To clarify, a branch out is something on the page that you connect to something else in Wikipedia. A branch in is something from Wikipedia that is listed on your page that you go to that other page and build a link and connect it in. A external link is something you put in Wikipedia that goes outside of the Wikipedia universe to something else on the web. That can also be put under other areas like a reference, but when they call it an external link, that's what they mean. So there's 3 different kinds of linking on a Wikipedia page. Right.
Okay, another thing is, I mentioned this already, it's uncontroversial. You're trying to keep as neutral a point of view as possible. If it's a topic that has differing viewpoints, you should bring them all to attention, but you should not bring a minor viewpoint to as much prominence as the widely accepted viewpoint. That should be clear from the article. And then the thing that I'm always most interested in, is it verifiable? It reflects expert knowledge, and well, if you're the expert, that's one thing, but even if you are, you're going to document it. So you're going to ground that fact in some scholarly or well-accepted documentation. It's also cited according to standard practice from a reliable and good source that should be relevant, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail as well. So this gives you really the main things that you have to strive for, and if you really do read this list and take it to heart, you'll do a great job. So now I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on some of these activities that you have to do, like, for example, citing your sources. So in the past, some students have thought, well, great, I Google, I find a web page on a topic that's in Wikipedia but needs to be fixed up. I take some of the stuff that's in the one page I found and I sort of copy it, maybe change it a little and stick it in the Wikipedia page. Well, don't do that, because that doesn't fulfill this assignment at all. Because moving things from one website to another is really not doing anything at all, unless, I mean, that can't be the one other website, and depending, of course, on the quality of that website you're copying from, cannot be enough verification for something. It's might as well just point to it. So there's no point in just linking from one page to another. You're not adding any value at all to the article by doing that. Okay, so I highlight this page because Wikipedia has an elaborate page on how to cite your sources. So does the library, and so do many places. So if you have any questions at all about the proper way to cite sources, you can contact me, or you can use any of these tools that are available. One thing I want to say is there are many, many poorly done citations on Wikipedia. Do not use other citations on Wikipedia pages as good examples. Do not assume that they are correctly done, because they mostly are not. Okay. So what constitutes good sources? Because what you want to verify with is not just any source, but a good source. So I guess maybe you've already seen these criteria. This is my take on the criteria, and this is a link to the library website page that describes the things that you have to consider: the authority of the source, the accuracy of the information, who it's the audience it's addressing, the objectivity of the source material, currency. Sometimes the date can be very important as to whether or not it's relevant or correct to what you're trying to write about. It doesn't always mean it has to be very current, but it has to be to your purpose, relevant to your purpose. The coverage of the source, does it cover all the aspects of what you have to cover? And if it's a web source, a web-based source, the quality of the links that are in that source and the sources that are used by the source you're going to use. So very often you can find a page that you maybe wouldn't want to cite, like I spoke about the 5th grade class project. That's not an appropriate source as a verification and documentation of some fact, right? Class project on, I don't know what, which? Global warming, right. Class project on global warming. Maybe the 5th grade class did a really good job, and that's nice, you can read it, but you're not going to use it as a reference in your Wikipedia page. But they might have used some good sources themselves. Maybe they referred to the international body that's been studying global warming, all those scientists, and if they did, and maybe you didn't know there was such a thing, maybe you learned it from the 5th grade class, great, go to that page and go to the horse's mouth, so to speak, and try to get the source material from the real source, not a secondary, third, or fourth source.